Have a good day. Today you will learn how to solve quadratic equation by factoring. Here are the steps in solving quadratic equations by factoring. First, you should know or you should look on the given quadratic equation, make sure that it is written to its standard form. And then afterwards, we may now factor our given quadratic equation. Third, we are now to apply the zero product property. And it states that if the product of two real numbers is 0, then either of the two is equal to 0 or both numbers are equal to 0. Say for example, a multiplied by b is equal to 0. So it can be a times 0 is equal to 0, 0 times b is equal to 0, or 0 times 0 is equal to 0. And then our fourth step is that we can now solve. And then lastly, for us to check if the given or if the values of x or the solution set that we get is correct, we do the checking for the last step on how are we going to solve quadratic equations by factoring. Now let's have the first example. Let's find the solutions of the given quadratic equation, which is x squared is equal to 5x. So given our quadratic equation, since the given quadratic equation is not yet written into its standard form, so we have to rewrite x squared is equal to 5x to its standard form as our first step. And this will now become x squared is equal to, or x squared minus 5x is equal to 0. After writing the given quadratic equation to its standard form, we may now factor it out. And the factoring technique that we are going to apply on this kind of equation will be the common monomial factoring. So we have to get the common factors of the two terms that we have. And the common factor of x squared and 5x is x. And that will be the first factor of our quadratic equation. Now, to find for the second factor, all we have to do is we are to divide the first factor from the given equation. So, we have here x squared divide x, and that will give us x. And negative 5x divides x will give us negative 5. So we are to combine the quotient so that our second factor will be x minus 5. Okay, so that will be the second factor of our given quadratic equation. For the third step we're in, we are to apply here the zero product property. We are to equate both factors to 0. Okay, so again, our first factor is x, so that x is equal to 0. And our second factor is x minus 5, which is equal to 0. So that is our second factor. Again, for the third step, we'll just simply equate both factors to 0. Then for the last step, we have now to solve. So since we already get the value of x from the first factor, so that will be our x sub 1, which is equal to 0. And our x sub 2, we have to solve x minus 5 is equal to 0. So we have to move negative 5 to the other side of our equation for us to get the value of our x sub 2, which is positive 5. So therefore, getting the values of our x, which are 0 and 5, we can say that the solution set of the given quadratic equations are 0 and 5. For the last step, we will do the checking. Okay, so we have here the value of, if the value of x is 0 and if the value of x is equal to 5. So let us have first given the value of x, which is 0. So we have to rewrite our given. Okay, so we do the checking for us to know or to check if we have here or both sides of our equation are equal. If both sides of our equations are equal, so therefore we got the correct solution for the given quadratic equation. Okay, so since we already write the given, we will now substitute the value of x, which is equal to 0. So, lahat po ng x, papalitan lang po natin ng 0. Okay? We do the substitution. Now, to solve, we are now to solve. So, is 0 squared, is that equal to 5 times 0? Very good. Both sides now are equal since both are equal to 0. So, we get the first value of x, or first solution of the given quadratic equation, as correct. What about the second value of x, or second solution, which is 5? Again, our given equation, we have here x squared is equal to 5x. Then we'll do the substitution. So we have to substitute the value of 5 to those variables that we have. Now, is 5 squared equal to 5 times 5? Very good. So both sides, so since both of the two sides of our equation is equal to 25, then we got here again the correct value of x. So therefore, it is clearly states that the solution set of the given quadratic equation x squared is equal to 5x is 0 and 5. So that is on how are we going to solve quadratic equation by factoring. Now let's have the second example. Let's find the roots of x squared is equal to 49. So again, the given equation we have to rewrite, and that is x squared is equal to 49. Again, the given quadratic equation is not yet written into its standard form. That's why we'll do the first step, wherein we have to rewrite it into its standard form. So we have to move 49 to the other side of our equation so that it will now become from positive, it will now become negative 49. That's why the standard form of the given quadratic equation now will be x squared minus 49 is equal to 0. Then we can now proceed on the next step, wherein we have to factor it out. So as you can see, we have here the first and second term of our quadratic equation are what we call perfect squares. So the factoring technique that we are going to apply here will be the difference of the two squares. So to do again, the process of getting the difference of two squares, we will just simply get the square root of our first term. So the square root of x squared will give us x. Okay, so that will be the first term of the factors of our quadratic equation. And we get also the square root of our second term, which is 49. So the square root of 49 is 7. So that will be the second term of our binomial. For the sign, so you look on the sign. So since you have here x squared minus 49, so we have here a positive and a negative sign for as the sign of the two binomials. Why we have to get the product of our last term, that should be negative. So we have to always remember that whenever we multiply, a positive and a negative number will give us a negative answer. So that's why we have here x minus 7 and x plus 7 as the factors of our given quadratic equation by getting its difference of a 2 square. Okay? Then afterwards, we can now equate both factors of our quadratic equation to 0. So you have here x minus 7 is equal to 0 for the first factor, and x plus 7 is equal to 0 for the second factor. Then last, or fourth step, we can now solve. So again, we have to move x minus 7 or negative 7 to the other side of our equation for us to get the value of x, and that is positive 7. And on the other factor, or for our second factor rather, we have here x plus 7 is equal to 0. So we have to move positive 7 to the other side of our equation, so that you have here, or you will get here the value of x, which is negative 7. So therefore, the solution set, or the roots of our given quadratic equation, x squared is equal to 49, are positive 7 and negative 7. For the last step, again, we will do the checking. So let's see if both sides of our equation are equal to 49 whenever we substitute the value of x as positive 7 and negative 7. Okay? So for the first value of x, which is positive 7, okay, so as you can see, both sides of our equation are equal to 49. That's why we got the correct value of x, which is positive 7. What about the second factor or second solution of our given quadratic equation, which is negative 7? So let us see. Okay, so again, still, both sides of our equation are equal, and that is both sides of our equation are equal to 49. So therefore, we got here again a correct answer for the solution of the given quadratic equation. So ibig sabihin po, tama yung nakuha natin na value or solution set rather of our given quadratic equation. Next example, let's find the roots of x squared minus 4x is equal to negative 4. So that is our given. So again, we will do the first step wherein we have to make sure that the given quadratic equation is written into its standard form. So to the right, we have to move negative 4 to the other side of our equation. So from negative 4, if we are going to move it to the other side, this will now become positive 4. So the standard form of the given quadratic equation now will be x squared minus 4x plus 4 is equal to 0. And for the second step, we have now to factor it out by PST, or this what we call the perfect square trinomial. Okay, so to do that, again, we now have here to look for the two factors of the given quadratic equation. So getting the square root of the first term, so you have here the square root of x squared, we have here x. Okay, so we again put our x as our first term for the two binomials that we are going to have. Then we can have here, or we have to get the square root of our last term, which is 4. So the square root of 4 will give us 2. So that will be the second term. Now, what about the sign? So look at the sign of the third term, which is positive 4. So for us to get a product of a positive number, so the signs should be both negative. So those are the first and second factor of the given quadratic equation. Okay, now let's apply now here the zero product property, wherein we have to equate both factors to 0. So you have here x minus 2 is equal to 0 and x minus 2 is equal to 0. So the same po, since we have here the same factor. Okay, now we still solve for the value of our x. So your negative 2 will move to the other side of our equation for us to get the value of our x, which is positive 2. So same with the value of the second x that we can have is that we can also have here positive 2. So that the solution set of the given quadratic equation is positive 2 and positive 2. Okay? For the last step, we will do the checking. So since pareho naman po siyang positive, so we will have to use here the first or only one value, which is x, or which is x is equal to positive 2. Okay? So we have to write our given. Always remember, if you are going to do the checking, ang lagi po natin gagamitin na equation ay kung ano po yung original na given. Okay? Just to make it clear. Now, so as you can see, we have here x squared minus 4x. Is that equal to negative 4? So substituting the value of your x by 2. So as you can see, as we're going to simplify, both sides of our equation are equal to negative 4. So therefore, we got here again a correct answer or correct solution set from the given quadratic equation. Now let's have this fourth example. Let's find the roots of x squared plus 9x is equal to negative 8. So again, the given quadratic equation is not yet written into its standard form. That's why we have to write it into its standard form. How are we going to do that? We'll just simply move -8 to the other side of our equation. From -8, it will now become +8. So you have now here x squared plus 9x plus 8 is equal to 0 as the standard form of the given quadratic equation. Then for the next step, we have to factor it out, and the factoring technique that we are going to apply here will be the quadratic trinomial, okay? For the quadratic trinomial, again, we will have to look for the two factors of the given trinomial or of the given quadratic equation. Okay, for the first term, we can easily get the first term. We'll just simply get the square root of x squared, and that will give us x, okay? Now, how are we going to look for the second term of each binomial that we are looking for? So as you can see, sorry, as you can see, the product of our last term is 8. Okay, so what are uh, the factors of +8, or what are these two numbers that will give us a product of +8? So here they are. We have here +4 multiplied by +2, +8 multiplied by +1. We also have here -4 and -2, and also -8 and -1. Now, look at the middle term. The sum of our middle term is 9. Now, among these four different factors of a product with a product of +8, pipili po tayo dyan, alin dyan yung ang merong 10 ay +9. So, let us get the sum of each factor. 4 plus 2 will give us 6. 8 plus 1 is equal 9. -4 plus -2 is -6. And -8 plus -1 is equal to -9. So, malinaw po that 8 plus 1 is the factor, or 8 and 1 is the factors of 8 having a sum of 9 ay eto po. Okay, so we have here 8 and 1. So we have to write the two factors here on our factor po. Now, what about their sign? We'll just simply use the sign or follow the sign of the two factors of 8 with a sum of 9. So they are both positive. So these are the factors of our given quadratic equation. Now we are to equate both factors to 0. So you have here x plus 8 is equal to 0 and x plus 1 is equal to 0. So to solve, we have to move +8 to the other side of our equation, and this will now become -8. So that's why that will be the first value of x, or that will be our x sub 1. And for the x sub 2, we have to solve x plus 1 is equal to 0. So we are to move +1 to the other side of our equation, and that will be -1. So the solution set of the given quadratic equation, x squared plus 9x is equal to -8, are -8 and -1. So for the last step wherein we have to do the checking for the solution set of the given quadratic equation. So again, we will do this process. So you have here x is equal to -8, and if x is equal to -1. So again, yung given po yung atin pong kukopihin, check if the values of x are correct. So as you can see from the screen, you have here both sides of your equation now is equal to -8 for the first value of x, which is -8. Then, if the value of x is equal to -1, so writing the given, substituting the value of x by -1, and by solving, as you can see, both sides of our equation are equal to -8. So therefore, we got here the correct solution set of the given quadratic equation. Last example, let's find the roots of 3x squared minus 13x minus 10 is equal to 0. So again, as you can see, the given quadratic equation now is written into its standard form. That's why we'll just simply copy the given quadratic equation. And the factoring technique of this kind of equation is that we have here again a quadratic trinomial wherein your a is not equal to 1. So as you can see, the value of A from the given equation po is 3. Okay, so you will now have here, you prepare here these two blanks for the factors of the given quadratic equation. Now, we have to first get the product of the first term and our last term. So you have here 3x squared multiplied by negative 10 will give us negative 30x squared. Then, we have to write all the possible factors or numbers that whenever we multiply will give us a product of negative 30. So the first one we have here negative 1 multiplied by 30, negative 2 multiplied by 15, negative 3 multiplied by 10, negative 5 multiplied by 6, positive 1 multiplied by negative 30, positive 2 multiplied by negative 15, positive 3 multiplied by negative 10, and positive 5 multiplied by negative 6. So these are the factors of negative 30. So from this set of factors of negative 30, so we highlight here that we got here the product of positive 2 and negative 15. Why? Whenever we get the sum of negative 2, positive 2 and negative 15, makukuha po natin yung sum ng ating dalawang factor, which is our middle term, and that is negative 13 po. So that's why the factors are 2 and negative 15. So, hindi pa po dyan natatapos. We have to write our equation as this. So, you have here 3x squared minus 15x plus 2x minus 10 is equal to 0. Ma'am, bakit po nauna yung negative 15? We have to group our quadratic equation with their similar term or having their common factor, kaya po nauna si negative 15. So, we have to group them. Ayan. So, kagaya na nabanggit ko. Then, we are to apply here the common monomial factoring. So, for the first group, which are 3x squared and negative 15x, their common factor here is 3x. So, getting the second factor, we have here 3x squared divides 3x will give us x, and negative 15x divides 3x will give us negative 5. So, same with the second factor group or factor, which is 2x minus 10. Their common factor is 2. So, getting the second factor, getting the second factor by dividing it by the common factor, which is 2, we can have here x minus 5 as well. That is equal to 0. So, as you can see, merong common factor tayong nakuha, which is x minus 5. So, clearly, that the factors of the given quadratic equations of this trinomial, is that x minus 5 and 3x plus 2. So, we'll just simply copy it and rewrite it from the space provided. So, these are the factors of a given quadratic trinomial wherein your a is not equal to 1. Then, we are now to equate both sides or both factors to 0. So, you have your x minus 5 is equal to 0. And 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. So, to solve, x minus 5 is equal to 0. Again, we have to move negative 5 to the other side of our equation. So, it will now become positive 5, and that will be the value of x. And for the second factor, which is 3x plus 2, we have to move positive 2 to the other side of our equation. And this will now become negative 2. So, hindi pa po natatapos dyan. We have to divide both sides of our equation by 3 for us to get the value of x. So, that the value of x of 2 is equal to negative 2/3. So, the solution set of a given quadratic equation now here is 5 and negative 2/3. Okay, again, for the last step, we have to do the checking. So, we have to write the given, and the solution sets given are if x is equal to 5, and the second one is if x is equal to negative 2/3. So, again, we have to write the given, which is 3x squared minus 13x minus 10 is equal to 0. Then we have to substitute the values of x, which are positive 5, and on the other side is negative 2/3. So as you can see from the solution that I presented here, both sides of your equation are equal, both for the values of x, of which are 5 and negative 2/3. So therefore, we got here the correct value of x, or the solution set of the given quadratic equation, which are 5 and negative 2/3. So again, to recall or to have a wrap up of our discussion on how are we going to solve quadratic equation by factoring. So again, the first step is that you have to make sure that the given quadratic equation, or express the given quadratic equation to its standard form. Then the second one, we can now factor the quadratic equation. Third, apply zero product property. For the fourth one, we have to solve each resulting quadratic equation. And for the last part, we have to do the checking. So we do the checking for us to double check if we got the correct values or the correct solution set of the given quadratic equation. Again, that is on how are we going to solve quadratic equation by factoring. So thank you and goodbye.